Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Time to update the unsung heroes for this Colorado program. Probably the favorite way to talk about Colorado for me personally, where you look at the national media and how they talk about this program. A lot of the emphasis goes to Coach Prime, Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders, and rightfully so. There's some players in college football, some of the best coaches in college football. What's the difference between this team in 2024 than what we saw in 2023? The supporting cast around some of these stars, it's just so much better than what we saw in 2023. And I don't get how you can't start with walk-on true freshman center Cash Cleveland, the first ever walk-on offensive lineman to start as a freshman for Colorado. Just saw that on Twitter. Not only is Cash Cleveland starting as a walk-on freshman, he is doing a phenomenal job at the center position, probably one of the hardest positions to play as a true freshman, where, yeah, you got to snap the football, you got to hold up physically, both in the run game and in pass pro. A lot of other responsibilities you have as a freshman to play that center position, right? Calling out some pass protections, being kind of the glue and communicator of the offensive line. Like Cash Cleveland has come in, has played over 100 pass pro snaps in the last 2 weeks against Texas Tech and Utah, 0 sacks, and 0 quarterback pressures. We have Jordan Seaton. We talk about Jordan Seaton and what he's doing at the left tackle position, which is equally as impressive. True freshman left tackle playing as well as Jordan Seaton. We got to start talking about Cash Cleveland. This is a really cool story. Now, I want to get into some of the rest of these guys who stand out. But again, a lot of y'all have been throwing a ton of names down in the comment section. So I encourage Colorado fans to let it fly. This program has been a blast to talk about, and the amount of support y'all have shown the fellas means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into this one. Again, I think one of the biggest storylines, Colorado the last couple of weeks when Cash Cleveland has stepped in, they're playing two true freshmen on the offensive line. And both of the true freshmen are playing exceptional football. You talk about Colorado and the buzz they're starting to pick up on the recruiting trail. I think a lot of it has to do with, and these kids at the high school ranks are looking at all these programs. Then they look at Colorado and say, you got a ton of true freshmen that are getting a ton of opportunity to play and contribute early on in their careers. You just don't get that at a lot of other programs. And I give Coach Prime a ton of credit for, this is unorthodox. And I don't think a ton of college football head coaches have the confidence to start a guy who's a walk-on freshman on the offensive line. Even if they might be the best option, I don't think there's a lot of coaches that have that kind of confidence to do so. Coach Prime certainly does, and it has worked out in a big-time way for this Colorado program. Now, speaking to true freshmen, I think you got to go to Drelon Miller as well. Drelon Miller, to me, he was so fascinating when he committed to Colorado. I kind of called him that Debo Samuel Jr. in terms of how many different ways you can use him in an offense, and that's exactly what this offensive coaching staff is doing with Drelon Miller. And kind of with the absence of Jimmy Horn, has kind of had to step up and be a little bit more of a consistent contributor for Colorado over the last couple of weeks, and certainly has done that. I think what you love most about Drelon Miller is the versatility, and Colorado is really leaning into that. Like, they're moving him all around the football field. You take a look at the snap count distribution. I mean, 32 snaps in the backfield as a running back, another 125 as a slot wide receiver, another 50 out there on the boundary as a boundary wide receiver. Drelon Miller is this offensive weapon chess piece that brings such a unique skill set to this Colorado offense. And I think they're using him in an absolute perfect manner where they're getting him in different situations. They're finding some of those favorable matchups. You got a guy like Drelon Miller who, can play running back. So you put him at that running back spot, get him lined up with some linebackers and man coverage, and he's a weapon coming out of the backfield. Then you take a look at how he's played and say he's got 29 targets. He's caught 25 of them. So over an 82% completion percentage when he's targeted with the football. Extremely good number for a true freshman. Only one drop on the year. Has 190 yards after the catch. This is a guy that is a weapon with the football in his hands. And Coach Prime, this offensive coaching staff, are using him exactly like that. Again, massive shout out to Coach Prime and the Colorado program to not only hey, this true freshman can play. We got to get him on the football field, but more importantly, really putting this kid in positions where he can be most impactful in this Colorado offense. Now, last one on offense I want to talk about, and I understand that I'm probably pushing the envelope here in terms of unsung heroes because Will Shepard's he's a guy that a lot of people know and a lot of people are giving a lot of credit to. The reason I want to talk about Will Shepard is he's given Colorado exactly what they needed as that transfer portal, big bodied boundary wide receiver. Where you go back to 2023 and kind of look at this roster and say, you know, a lot of really good wide receivers, guys like Jimmy Horn, Travis Hunter, Xavier Weaver. They kind of all were the same kind of wide receivers, right? Kind of short, intermediate route tree kind of guys. Now, Travis Hunter, a little bit more unique. There's just not a thing he can't do on the football field. But you look at guys like Jimmy Horn and a guy like LeJontay Wester this year, they're much more short, intermediate guys. Get the football in their hands, let them operate after the catch. Colorado didn't really have that bigger bodied boundary wide receiver that can consistently work vertically down the field. They had it kind of with Arden Miller, who was a true freshman. I think they wanted a more proven contributor at that boundary spot. Will Shepard's come in and been just that. And you look at that play against Utah, 4th and 5, Colorado's offense kind of, struggling to find their rhythm on Saturday. And then Will Shepard goes out and just goes and makes that play on that 4th and 5 that kind of just changed the football game. After that play, it was just kind of all Colorado the rest of the football game. So it makes Colorado so difficult. You got, even when the offense isn't playing their best football, which they weren't playing their best football against arguably the best defense you've seen in the Big 12, still managed to put up 40-plus points because you have so many guys that can just change games. And Will Shepard's one of them. I mean, he's got 10 contested catches on the year. We were missing that kind of wide receiver in this offense last year. And especially with the Arden Miller going down, you kind of needed someone to fill that in 2024. Will Shepard continues to be that guy. And you saw Utah really try to squeeze down on Colorado, avoid the yards after the catch, which I thought they did a really good job of in terms of tackling some of these playmakers in space. If you want to squeeze down with your safeties and leave your boundary cornerback one-on-one on an island against 6'3", 210-pound Will Shepard, good luck to you. And Colorado was able to change the game with a guy like Will Shepard. And it helps that Shedeur Sanders throws just a beautiful deep ball. And so Will Shepard really fits kind of like a glove into this offense. Now, going over to the defensive side of the football, two guys I want to shout out. Y'all know Cam Salmon-Craig, Nikhai Hill-Green. Those were the two guys that we talked about last year, or a couple weeks ago. Let's talk about Arden Walker. And one thing that stands out to me about Arden Walker, I give this kid a ton of credit for not transferring after year one. Probably didn't play as much as he expected to play. And when he transferred to Colorado last year, stuck around, was a backup to start the year, still is really just a rotational place that plays a lot of football, but still is not necessarily a quote-unquote starter for Colorado. He's probably emerged as the best pass rusher on this Colorado front seven. One of the biggest storylines in terms of this Colorado team turning this defense around is they're creating a ton of negative plays. They're top 10 in the country in sacking the quarterback. That doesn't get much better. If you're Colorado, Arden Walker's been that guy. 17% pass rush win rate, 13 quarterback carries, playing his best football in the month of November. Not only these kind of guys stepping up, but the depth, even when you lose some guys to injury, like Dayon Hayes not playing, a guy that we thought was going to be probably the best edge rusher for Colorado. BJ Green, Samuel Kanlola, now Arden Walker, just so many guys stepping up, and it's a deep defensive line. You talk about why Colorado was able to kind of put their foot down on Utah in the second half. They got a lot of guys who are playing along the line of scrimmage, and that's a big deal for Colorado. Last player I want to shout out, just Mr. Do-It-All, Carter Stoutmire. Was kind of forced in it to play that had to wear a lot of hats, you might say, against Utah with Preston Hodge going out with injury. Played some box safety, played a lot of nickel. Not only is he very reliable in coverage, this kid, as a young cat, is very willing to get involved in the run game. That you talk about one of the bigger storylines with Colorado stopping the run. Yeah, they're much better in the front seven. Cam Salmon-Craig, Carter Stoutmire, coming down from the secondary and getting their nose into that run game. It's a big deal. And Carter Stoutmire, a guy that, kind of had to do a lot of different things as a young player against Utah, played 66 snaps all over the football field, did a really good job. And so you're starting to see just a lot of football players step up around some of the stars in this Colorado team. That's kind of the result of why you're looking at such a dangerous Colorado team. Those are the 5 names that I got. I probably should have included someone like Amari McNeil, who's been playing some really good football on the inside of the defensive line. Would love to hear from y'all in the comment section. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.